20th round of the Motul FIM Superbike World Championship to take place on Italian asphalt. 164 races and counting. Nowhere has hosted more. Our second visit this season, this is the Pirelli Emilia-Romagna round. The 32nd trip to the country's most prolific venue, Misano, located on the eastern coast, just 14 kilometres from the microstate of San Marino. Inaugurated in 1972, now named the World Circuit Marco Simoncelli, it retains the hallmarks of its era, a compact layout putting it among the slowest of the season. But there are still enough heavy braking zones to make overtakes. The start-finish straight might only measure 510 metres, but almost 200 of that is on the brakes into turn 1. And if riders get in deep, there's an opportunity to pass on the switchback into turn 2. Andrea Locatelli was particularly strong through this chicane on our last visit. All three of Toprak Razgatlioglu's race-winning manoeuvres last year were made at La Quercia, turn 8, the longest braking zone on the circuit at 4.5 seconds. Turn 11, by contrast, is Ducati territory, both Bautista and Bulliger making moves at the eye-watering Curvone. On the opening lap, keep an eye out for turn 14, Caro, when the riders are bunched together in the early stages. The slowest in a series of decreasing radius corners at just 60 kilometres per hour invites a block pass. Toprak took half a second off the race lap record last season, and the pace has only got hotter this season so far. The Czech round 3 weeks ago, the same three riders made all three podiums, and until the final few metres it looked as though the finishing positions would be identical too. Then Toprak Razgatlioglu lost drive. Nicolo Bulliger pulled alongside to win for the first time in Most, and by just 0.03 of a second. The third race this season decided by less than 1/10 of a second between the championship's top two. There've been just 9 points to choose between them over the last 4 rounds, so those final few metres in Most may be among the most crucial in this title race. A 10-point swing in favour of Bulliger, and Toprak still has 31 points to fight. Steve English alongside me. A look at the calendar and a run of 3 circuits where Razgatlioglu was unbeaten last year: Most, Misano and Donington Park. Toprak was top scorer last time out in Most, but he only recovered 3 points against Bulliger.
Yeah, that race too really was critical for Bulliger to be able to come back and do what he did. Toprak missed out on the chance of the hat-trick, missed out on the momentum, and then we come to Misano where Bulliger's had that little bit more comfort, a little bit more pace, and for Razgatlioglu, he knows he's going to have to dig in deep for these 21 laps.
Toprak Razgatlioglu was the top scorer in Most 4 weeks ago, but only by 57 points to 54 over Nicolo Bulliger, so the main changes were behind in the battle for bronze. 3 third places for Danilo Petrucci at the Czech round saw him pick up 39 points, while Alvaro Bautista and Andrea Locatelli managed less than half of that tally. They've now dropped to 4th and 5th respectively, still only 20 points between the three of them. Sam Lowe's was the 4th highest scorer in Most, and 3 missed races for Andrea Iannone enabled Lowe's to consolidate 6th overall. Well, the month of June is always a key one in World SBK, with the first of the rider contract announcements, and this year has been no different. The future of the top 2 in the current World Championship standings now secure for 2026. Nicolo Bulliger signed up, well, to remain for a 3rd season in World SBK's Premier Class, whilst also taking on a development role on Ducati's 2027 MotoGP machinery alongside Michele Pirro. And it is great to see this paddock has been a route forward for Bulliger, because he was only really a Moto3 front runner in 2016, and he's had to reinvent himself in this paddock in less than 4 years, delivering Ducati a Supersport title, and now he's on course for the Superbike crown this season.
Yeah, and it really would be good to see him make that progression back into MotoGP. Obviously enough, it's going to be one of those situations when there's the change to Pirelli tyres that will have a big impact for what teams and manufacturers decide to do.
This is the replay from Superpole earlier on today. Nicolo Bulliger and Andrea Iannone in front of Danilo Petrucci, and both have been given a penalty for slow riding on the racing line. It's a tough penalty for both Nicolo Bulliger and Andrea Iannone.
Especially for Iannone, you're behind the other rider, and Bulliger gets the penalty. Iannone's got nowhere really to go. I think it's quite a harsh penalty, but obviously the FIM stewards have a lot more information than we have to hand. They're able to look at the the sector times, they're able to look at the data, they're able to look to see what happened there exactly. Obviously, you could see that Bulaga wasn't pushing as hard as he could have been, but for Petrucci, the reaction seems to be what gets the penalty.
As I said, in advance of this round, news coming in about the top 3 riders in the championship for next season, and Toprak Razgatlioglu will move to MotoGP for 2026. He joins Pramac Yamaha for what is his rookie season in the championship. Toprak's done just about everything in this paddock, working his way up from Stock 600 to World SBK, becoming Yamaha's all-time record holder for race wins and giving them a first title in a generation, the only rider to deliver the trophy to BMW, and placing himself among statistically the top riders of all time in this series. Now a new adventure awaits for him, and a new adventure for Alvaro Bautista as well, after news from Ducati that he's released for next year. Pace in Superpole this morning, with the lap record beaten by 0.6 of a second with the new qualifying tyre from Pirelli. Nicolo Bulliga claimed his 7th consecutive front row, his 3rd pole of the season, and still hasn't qualified out of the top 2 in 2025. 5th consecutive Emilia-Romagna round front row for Toprak Razgatlioglu, and a first front row start for Axel Bassani since Imola 2023. The first for Bimota since their return to the championship. Both promoters on the front 2 rows of the grids, with Alex Lowe's qualifying at P5, gap of almost half a second behind the top 2, who should be in a head-to-head for the win here. But a fascinating scrap in prospect behind them, because positions 3, 4 and 5 in the championship qualified 8th, 9th and 11th. And there are 7 or 8 riders who will probably all feel they have a chance of completing the podium here.
Yeah, we've got a really good battle behind Toprak and Bulaga. Obviously, Bulaga, with his penalty, is going to start from that 2nd row of the grid. He's going to make pretty quick progress, you'd imagine, straight there with Toprak on lap 1. And then we'll wait and see what happens for that final stop at the podium. The likes of Bautista from the 4th row of the grid, he's going to feel that he has a chance to make that progress, but it was another bad Superpole performance from the number 19, and he's got a lot of work to do.
Rarely see either Razgatlioglu or Bulliga not starting on the front row of the grid. It's not only 3 times that Bulliga has qualified outside of the top 3 positions. Obviously today he qualifies pole, but will start from the 2nd row of the grid. Is that an opportunity for Toprak? Is there a chance that Bulliga could get beaten up in the early stages? Think particularly about that run in towards turn 4, for example, on the opening lap.
Do you want me to help you build the excitement, Alan? Do you want the honest answer? Bulga's got so much more speed than the other riders that as long as he gets off the line well, he'll be there with Toprak from the get-go.
I think my point is, if it takes him a couple of laps to get through on Sam Lowe's, for example, it gives Toprak the chance to control things at the front and manage his tyre, which could be critical in hot temperatures here in Misano.
Well, we know that Toprak will look to defend from the front. He doesn't like to sit behind the rider. He'll be happy to have that jump from the get-go, and that's what gives Toprak the advantage in the early stage of the race. But it will just come down to a fight between the 2 of them. Bulaga's got a little bit more bike underneath him than Toprak this weekend. The Ducati and the tyre life and the grip that he gets is just a little bit more comfortable than what Toprak gets out of the BMW. But there's not an awful lot to choose between them.
As for the riders who've got to make their way through the field here, 3rd in the championship, Danilo Petrucci starts from P8. Andrea Locatelli, 5th in the championship, starts from P7 alongside him. And Alvaro Bautista, 4th in the standings, only 5 points behind Danilo Petrucci, will line up directly behind him on the grid. Bautista starting P11. So as I said, fair few surprises in Superpole earlier on today, not least with 2 of those Bimotas putting it up on the front 2 rows of the grid, and Remy Gardner also a strong effort to complete that 2nd row. Let's take you through the grid in full then, starting from pole position with Toprak Razgatlioglu. Still chasing after going down 2 podiums and 42 points to Nicolo Bulliger in Phillip Island. He is still down 2 podiums. It's now 13 to 11, but he has outscored Bulliger in 3 of the last 4 rounds. 31 points now the gap, and Misano, always a good venue for Toprak. He led his first laps in the championship and claimed his first fastest lap here in 2019. He's won here twice for Yamaha and did the hat-trick here for BMW last season.
Yeah, for Toprak, basically over the course of the last 5 rounds we've had here, he's always been on the podium bar, only a couple of races. He's so strong around here, it suits his style, and certainly for him, he'll view it that this is a chance to try and claw back some points on Bulliger.
Axel Bassani, 6th place in race 2 of the Czech round last time out. Strong finish for the weekend there, just as in Portimao and Assen, and he'll be optimistic of hitting the ground running this time in Misano, one of 5 venues where he's been on the podium, and the Emilia-Romagna round was his highest scoring weekend last season.
So Javi Flores on the grid there as well, test rider for Bermuda, and he was busy during the course of the 2-day test here at Misano a few weeks ago.
Sam Lowes completes the front row, a podium finisher here in Supersport and Moto2, but the Emilia-Romagna round was a difficult one for him last year with just a 3-point score. 2025 has been a very different season so far. Lowes a top 6 finisher in 2/3 of the races, including each of the last 5, 8 consecutive scoring rides to his name, placing him 6th in the standings.
Yeah, he's been one of the best riders during the Superpole sessions as well, and he's going to be rewarded with that front row start. And what we've seen from him this year is much more comfortable on the bike and able to get the most out of it.
Nicolo Bulliger claiming pole position, of course, relegated back down to P4 with that 3-place grid penalty, but the pole will still count towards his career records, and it is the 7th pole for him in World SBK in total. Bulliger then the unusual sight of the man signing the lens, actually starting from 4th position on the grid.
Yeah, and for Bulliger, obviously it's a big penalty, but it's not going to be something that materially impacts him too much over the course of this race. You'd imagine over 21 laps that he's going to be battling with Toprak all the way through, just like he would have expected to be, even if he had qualified on that 1st position on the grid.
Well, we've got to get Nicolo Bulliger back into position on the grid now so that we can go through row number 2. Nicolo Bulliger, Alex Lowes and Remy Gardner, and here is Bulliger right on cue. Plenty of expectation on his shoulders this weekend coming into Ducati's home round, and Bulliger is the Italian rider with most wins for the manufacturer. 3 second places all he could manage at the Emilia-Romagna round last year, but he won all 3 on our last visit to Italy in Cremona. Took his first Czech round win last time out in Most. Bulliger undoubtedly making a huge step forward in 2025. Alex Lowes, 4th place in race 1 of the Czech round. His best result yet on the promoter. Only scored a single point in race 2 after being run off the track in the early stages. Lowes and teammate Bassani separated by only 2 points in the championship for 10th overall. It's time for the Italian national anthem. Down to the grid, it's Liam Hodgins.
Thank you very much, Alex. Down on the front row of the grid wall, off to the side a little bit with the Axel Bassani, qualified on the front row for the first time in Promoter's 35 years, and your first front row since 2023. Axel, not many people in front of you, or just Toprak off to your left. How are you feeling ahead of this one? Is the podium possible?
The podium is always difficult because the level is really high. We have to be realistic. We did really good Superpole. Yeah, podium can be 50% possible, but we are a lot of riders that can do a good job, so I will try only to focus on myself to do my race pace but in the best way is possible, and we'll see what happens at the end of the race.
All the best, Axel, for the race.
Thank you, bye-bye.
I tell you what, 50% chance he's giving himself of a podium for Bimota. And those are good odds for a manufacturer that obviously hasn't made it onto the rostrum since their return this season.
It's going to be tough for Axel and for Bimota, but the big thing is for tomorrow's Superpole race, they're going to start from that front row of the grid, second row of the grid for Alex as well. So that puts them in a good position to come away with good points all the way through this weekend.
Just before the national anthem, we saw Remy Gardner, who will complete the second row of the grids here. Let's move on with row 3. Andrea Locatelli, Danilo Petrucci and Jari Montella. Look how busy the grid is here in Misano. It is always the most popular round of the season. Locatelli then, a couple of difficult rounds in a row for him after the elation of his first win in Assen. His best result in the last 6 races, just 7th place, dropping him to 4th and then 5th in the championship. But he will be optimistic here in Misano. The Emilia-Romagna round was his best of the 2024 season with a 30-point pool here.
Yeah, and for Locke, we've been able to see from Yamaha this weekend, Gardner is 6th on the grid, Locke is 7th on the grid. They've been up inside the top 10 all the way through the weekend, and that's going to give them a lot of confidence going into this one.
Of course, news coming from Yamaha in advance of this round that Locatelli will remain with the official team. A 2-year contract extension, and at the start of next season he will take Yamaha's all-time appearance record. He has been consistent throughout his spell on Yamaha machinery. Third row of the grid with Danilo Petrucci, P8, podium finisher here in Misano in MotoGP back in 2017, but his best result in Misano in 6 races in World SBK, just 6th. 5 podiums this season so far, 3 of them last time out in Most. 39 points his score from the Czech round, comfortably his best of the season. He's now up to 3rd in the championship. This is his teammate Jari Montella, starting 9th on the grid, put in his best weekend so far with a 16-point score in Most to 8th places in the feature-length races, matching his best results of the season. Perfect way to bounce back from a miserable weekend in Cremona where he only scored 2. He'll be hoping for better than that on his return to Italian soil.
He's a top 10 finishes at all but one round this year. Needs to do it again this weekend. He's actually been pretty quick. Used the Q tyre yesterday to give himself a lot of confidence, and for him, he's been able to put it up there in the 3rd row of the grid.
Andrea Iannone will start from 10th on the grid with that 3-place penalty. More than half of his points in 2025 coming from the Australian round back in February. His only rostrum finishes this year so far. Chasing his first Misano podium, 5th in the Superpole race, his best here last year. Makes his return this weekend from 2 fractured toes in his right foot that cost him the Czech round.
Busy grid down there as well. Like I said, we saw Michele Pirro, the Ducati test rider, Paul Jordan down there as well, the TT racer. And for Iannone, you try and take yourself away from all of the panic that goes on around you, because you know that you need to be able to focus up now on the real battle at hand, and from that 4th row of the grid it's going to be tough to make that progress.
What a difference a year makes for Alvaro Bautista coming into the Emilia-Romagna round. This time last year Bautista was the championship leader. He's won just 2 races in 14 rounds since then. His longest winless drought with Ducati at 21 races, and last time out in Most, his first this season off the podium altogether. He's looking to bounce back here. 22 points at the Czech round for Iker Lecuona, his best this season, moving him up 4 places overall to 9th. And but for his 2 retirements in Cremona, he'd be ahead of teammate Xavi Vierge now, despite missing the opening round of the season. So Lecuona has done a solid job in 2025.
Yeah, Iker's always fast, and we'll see what he can do in that opening couple of laps. Bautista from that 4th row, he'll make the progress. For Iannone and Lecuona, if they can go with him, to give themselves a chance.
Dominic Egerter scoreless here in Misano last season, but he's picked up points at every round so far in 2025. He was 8th overall in his rookie 2023 campaign, finished 16th last season after missing 3 rounds, and he's been even further off the pace this season. Hasn't made the top 10 since Assen. So the coming weeks must now be about putting his name in the shop window for next year for Dominic Egerter. New crew chief for him this weekend. Alongside him on the 5th row of the grid, Michael van der Mark suffered his worst round of last season here in Misano, only 8 points. Failed to match even that tally in Most last time out. 2 points for 14th in race 2, his only score. Dutchman did look good in Portimao, managed 3 top 10 finishes in Cremona, but otherwise there's been little to celebrate. He's down in 14th in the standings. Garrett Gerloff completes that 5th row. It's taken him 15 races, but he now has a first top 10 finish with Kawasaki on the board. Remember, Pacetti only scored 22 points in the whole of last season, and Gerloff's on 30 from 5 rounds. And some of the other tracks coming up have been kind to him in the past, so there is chance for further progress.
Yeah, we've seen a few flashes from Garrett on that Kawasaki, and for him, it's about trying to give yourself the chance to come away with another top 10 finish. But it's going to be tough around here with that Kawasaki in the hot conditions. It was never the forte of that bike in recent years.
Jonathan Rea just P16 on the grid. Picked up his first points of the season with 10th in race 1 of the Czech round last time out and would have been hoping to make a bigger impression this weekend. Statistically, World SBK's most successful rider at Misano. Took his first career win here in 2009. In total has 8 victories around this circuit and 17 podiums in 31 starts.
Yeah, Johnny is really struggling to get anything out of that Yamaha over a single lap with the Q tyre, and obviously an awful lot of rumours about what will happen from next year. He could well stay at Yamaha, could even return to his previous manufacturer. He's trying to figure out the best options available for him, and for Ray, he needs to come away with some points in this one. On race tyres, he's actually been pretty competitive compared to the other Yamaha riders at the recent test and during some of the free practice sessions.
6th row of the grid completed by Xavi Vierke and Scott Redding. Row 7, Ryan Vickers, Bahattin Sofoglu, Michael Ruben Rinaldi, Taz McKenzie and Zakwan Zaidi completing your field. Back down to the grid with Liam.
Yes, thanks very much, Alex. Down on the grid with Serafino 40. He's just giving the riders a bit of a hug before they go off. Serafino, not quite the best place you want Nico to start from, but he has the pace to challenge Toprak for the win today. The start's going to be important, but how do you think he's going to go?
To be honest, okay, we accept this, but we are absolutely not agree, because for us was not the case to penalize Nicolo. But anyway, we followed the steward decision, okay. But anyway. But to be honest, okay, he's here, no? I think if Nicolo do a really good start, probably we can fight with him for try to win.
And for Alvaro, starting on the 4th row of the grid, what do you think he can do in this race?
Yeah, for sure, Alvaro is the race man, no? I'm confident that he can do a really good race.
Thanks very much, Serafino, and all the best for the race.
Thank you.
Yes, Alvaro Bautista starting from 11th position on the grid with work to do. The riders 3rd, 4th and 5th in the standings, starting 7th, 8th and 11th off the line here. And we have got a real fight in prospect, not only for the victory between Toprak Razgatlioglu and Nicolo Bulliger, who've been the top 2 in every session this weekend so far, but also a real scrap with a big group of riders who will all fancy their chances of completing the podium behind the big 2 here.